topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Houston. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is the first Friday of the month, and that means we have the Dean Law Firm. They have been with us for 4 years now, and this is the first time, I think it is, in 4 years, we've had the boss lady, Julia Dean, with her senior attorney, Kayla Sprague. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon. It's great to see you.
I know we've had other of your attorneys on with us before, but I think this is the first time you've brought one of your attorneys on.
Yeah, I think so. Both together at the same time. So it's a pleasure to have Kayla Sprague here with me.
Well, I got to tell you, if you want to call it a monologue, my opening monologue with you is always much longer, only because you are probably one of the finest estate planning law firms in the state of Texas. And the information you have provided us over the years is just amazing. And what tops it off, and something I think an estate planning attorney needs, is a big heart. And I got to tell you, Julia, you have a big heart. You really do care about others. And all your attorneys we've had on are all the same. You've trained them well.
Well, I'm so blessed. They're really great attorneys, and they do have that same heart and passion for people and helping them. And that makes a huge difference in this area of law in particular, because we're dealing with people's finances and their families. And those are really intimate things that we're talking about, and we want to make sure that we're giving them an amazing legacy, that we're taking care of issues now so they don't have issues in the future. So it's really important to us to get to know our clients and treat them well, and as we would our own family.
The last couple of days, Julia, I have thought about doing this show, and I'm going to tell you why. We want people to not wait till the last minute. We want them to call you up, come in your office, sit down, because you never know what's going to happen. And just look what's going on in North Carolina and Georgia. And those people do not prepare. And you just never know what's going to happen. And you're in Houston, and, there's another possible hurricane out in the Gulf now. You just never know. And sometimes people wait too long, don't they?
Unfortunately, they really do. And then our choices are so limited, and they're almost always going through a court. And that requires all kinds of cost and delay. And, it's just really not what's best for our clients. So if I can in any way keep us from getting into court in the first place, I'm doing you a favor. And that's my goal, is, to make sure we minimize or eliminate having to go to courts.
I know that you always say when we do the show, you trying to keep people from going into probate. And folks,
Yes.
If you've never been in probate gets very expensive. So here, Julia and her staff are always trying to keep their clients from having to go into probate and protect themselves. Julie, tell us about your firm.
Well, I've had my own firm for about 18 years. I've been practicing for over 30 years. And when I opened up my own firm, I really wanted to focus on people and meeting with people, because I'd gone so far removed in the appellate world and the litigation world sometimes from the people that I really wanted to help on a proactive basis. And so I decided to really delve into estate planning law and the tax law that surrounds it, and be able to help people proactively. And so as I did that, I realized that, not only do we need to know estate planning really well, but special needs planning and elder law planning and guardianship and probate, because all of those areas intersect with one another. And so we want to make sure that we're addressing all of those needs and issues and pre-planning a way for issues that our clients don't even know they might ever encounter. And our goal is that they never encounter it, so that it'd be very smooth. And so when I opened my law firm, it was because I had a passion for working with people and helping them proactively. And I've had the blessing of working with so many incredible people over the years. And this Calla right, beside me is a wonderful attorney, and she's been, great. And then we also have Jonathan Sterneman that you met before, and he's great too. So all three of us are very experienced in this areas, all these areas, and are coming to the table to help our clients in the best way possible.
Well, I'm going to throw out a lot of questions to you today, and you decide who you want to respond to. It's called revocable trust, and there are so many people who have no idea what a revocable trust is, but we hear it all the time.
And I can take that one. So when Julia talks about avoiding probate, that's the major vehicle that will do that inside. Those are revocable living trusts. What's so great about those is, number one, they're revocable, meaning if you change your mind, you reserve that right during your life while you've got the capacity to do so. But it's just important. I feel like sometimes people worry that they've got this estate plan and somehow they're either locked into it, they can't change it, they don't really understand it. So our first goal is always, number one, that you understand what the revocable trust is. And like I said, the major benefits of it being probate avoidance. Also, Julia mentioned quickly, like a guardianship. In later on in life, as people age, we think about guardianships for children so often, but as people age, they can possibly need a guardian as well. Think of situation, Alzheimer's, dementia, they can't take care of themselves. So in a trust, you can use that as a vehicle to avoid a true guardianship proceeding, which means a court proceeding, which means an expensive proceeding. These trusts can help you avoid those and really put your care in the hands of the people that you trust the most, without a judge kind of intervening and making that decision for you. So at the revocable living trust, they also are sometimes called management trusts or living trusts. And so when you Google these words, revocable living or management trust, they usually mean the same things. But I always like to tell clients that, just so if they're doing some kind of research on their own, to see those words kind of all mean sort of the same thing. So
we just got our first text from Seguin.
Great.
They want to know what, if you will explain power of attorney and how do you choose who that should be?
Well, a power of attorney is someone that you appoint to manage your finances, and you can make that effective immediately or effective only upon your incapacity, which would be determined, usually how we set it up is determined by 2 independent doctors. And so we get those 2 independent doctors' letters, and that allows them to step in and manage your checking account, your savings account, or whatever. Now, when you have a trust in place, like the living trust, that governs anything that's owned by the trust. The trustee manages it. Whereas if we have a power of attorney, that's for everything outside of the trust. So let's say we have our retirement accounts, they'll be outside the trust while we're alive. And so we need someone to manage that, or work with the government, a Medicare or whatever. So we have someone appointed who can do that. Our powers of attorney are much more extensive than the state statutory ones, which unfortunately, those are the ones that most of the financial institutions, or oftentimes they will not accept those. And so we just want to make sure that they're accepted and they have the provisions that we we want for them. And so what we'll do is make them much more extensive on the powers that they have. We'll also go into having provisions for long-term care planning, that your agent can do that on your behalf, as well as maybe some gifting provisions so they can help avoid taxes. And so there's a variety of things that we can do tax-wise, disability-wise, in addition to just someone managing your finances. And then you would ask, who is good for that? So I'm going to let Calla also address that.
And I always tell people, pick somebody you trust. And if there isn't someone you trust, talk to your attorney. Sometimes talk to us. Sometimes we can give you ideas. We can, like a neighbor, they might be your best friend. If they're your best friend, you trust them with your house, that's okay. It doesn't have to be somebody related to you. It can be children, assuming they're age 18, but there's some problems, as you can imagine, appointing an 18-year-old to make those sort of decisions. So you want if your children are who you're choosing, they need to be of an age that you trust them to make the decisions that you would make, because they're almost stepping into your shoes from a financial standpoint. So the example I always tell clients, maybe scare them just a little bit to realize how important the trust part of this, or trusting your person, is. They could sell your house out from underneath you. That is something you can do with a power of attorney. And I don't say that to scare people, because we may need that right. If you have moved into long-term care, we do want to be able to sell the house without your approval. But those are the types of things they can do, your agent, and you just want to make sure they would be doing what you would do in that situation. So the conversations and telling them and educating them on what you'd want is just a huge part of that process, in my opinion.
What about if someone is hospitalized and maybe they have a do not resuscitate? Is that also under power of attorney?
It's a different document. It's a separate document, the do not resuscitate. We do the out of hospital do not resuscitates. There are in hospital that the hospitals provide. But let's say you have, the most common scenario is someone has a heart attack at home. Someone calls 911. Well, if you have a do not resuscitate, when they come and they know you have that, they won't shock your heart back. They're not going to do any active airway management. So if you want the opportunity to, for them to intervene, see if it is something that can be treated or reversed, then, you don't want that. You don't want to do not resuscitate. But when we get to the hospital, then there's another document called a directive to physicians or living will that you may want to have even if you don't have a do not resuscitate order. And that's whether or not you want artificial life support if they decide this isn't reversible or it's a terminal condition. And then you can decide, no, I don't want that anymore. Or yes, I do. I want all of it, or I want something in between.
We just got a text from a professor at Rice University. He said, I saw your promotion and you had on there elder law. What is elder law?
Yeah, so go into elder law.
Elder law is kind of a portion or a section of estate planning that really we're focusing on. Sometimes Medicaid planning, if a client needs Medicaid, or sometimes that is planning right in advance. Other times it's emergency planning. Hey, we need long-term care. What can we do to get there? Also, I think with the estate planning portion, although not all of it is elder law, I think it all, like Julia kind of mentioned earlier, it's also intertwined, that it's kind of gray what falls between elder law and estate planning, but really it's just specializing with people who maybe have concerns about aging or are a little bit older than the average. But really a lot of it's Medicaid and just succession. Who would you like? You put your question about who's a good power of attorney. Those are kinds of questions that we talk about with elder law. Also, we worry about elder abuse so often in those types of power of attorney. An older person may not know what's exactly going on. They've been named somebody they trust as a power of attorney. We see a lot of people doing the wrong things. There's lots of documentaries out there that will scare you way beyond what I could ever scare you about what people can and can't do. And so we just like to talk with our clients about those examples and, the Medicaid, like I said, the Medicaid part of it. And
there's one piece of it that most people don't think of that falls under the umbrella of elder law, and that's our special needs planning for our special needs individuals. It actually falls under that umbrella, but I kind of think of it as a subset of that. And it doesn't have to be elderly special needs. It could be, very young. But it's interesting. It does kind of fall under that same umbrella, which is interesting. But usually it's our Medicaid planning and long-term care planning.
Do you prepare your clients? Listen, cost of healthcare has gone up so much, but I'm thinking more about like senior living and preparing people for the high cost. And I mean, you try to go to one of these senior living homes and it is expensive.
Very. Yes. And, there's only 3 choices with long-term care when we're older. Either we pay for it ourselves, self-funding. We have long-term care insurance that helps us cover it, and probably doesn't cover all of it, but it'll cover some of it. And thirdly, if we qualify Medicaid, which is a government needs-based assistance program for nursing home care. Now, there's some at-home care. It's very hard to get, especially in Texas. And so usually we're planning for the nursing home care where the doctor has said, yeah, you need to be in a nursing home facility, that you need help with at least 2 out of the 5 activities of daily living, which are things like bathing and eating and toileting and transferring and things like that. And then they look at an asset test and they look at an income test. So assets, if you're single, you can only have $2,000 of non-countable assets, which is not very much. What's non-countable? Our house, 1 vehicle, a prepaid funeral plan if it's done right and it's Medicaid compliant, and certain term life insurance. And that's pretty much it. And then the rest, we're going to have to start looking, okay, can we consider it income or an asset? Now, income, it depends, again, if we're single or married. Married with assets, we can have a little more than we can with single. But single, there's also income limits. But in Texas, we can do a special kind of trust that allows us to, even if we're beyond that in our income, to still qualify for Medicaid as long as it's going to Medicaid to help pay for it, and then Medicaid makes up the difference. So it's a very complex and not intuitive and not common sense. And I can tell you that almost everyone who comes in has gone to the internet and tried to learn about it. And the first thing I tell them is just take everything you've learned and throw it out the window.
Yeah.
And let's start from ground zero, because they're getting the wrong information, because every state is different. For Medicaid, it's a combination of federal laws and state laws. So that means every state is different. And so they come in with these ideas and sometimes what the neighbors have told them, and it's just wrong. And it can be that one wrong thing that can disqualify you. And I see a lot of people start gifting and giving away early, and now we've got a 5-year penalty period, And so we just want to do it well. So it's always worth the investment in just a consultation to learn what can you do, and do we need to do anything else in your situation, and how do we, if we can pre-plan, we can always do more, right? I always tell you that. Right. So let's plan, and then we don't have to worry so much about that 5-year look back. Then we can start looking at other options, so that we're ready to be in a long-term care situation.
I think what's so amazing about what your firm does is some people think about, well, maybe I can just handle this on my own. Julia, you and your staff know so much about this that there is no way any person could know about all the things that are available to them. But something we haven't talked about in a long time, because I know, and I don't know if I'm using the right word, but one of your expertise areas is special needs.
Yes.
And I have a special needs daughter. There's things that parents don't know. And we got caught because our daughter is autistic, and we didn't know that in Florida, the state takes over as soon as they turn 18. talk about feeling like you've lost a lot of rights
Yes.
because
Oh.
we didn't know.
Right. Exactly. And it's just huge. The day they turn 18, everything changes. And I guess 21 in some states, but here in 18.
18 years.
Yeah. And so, and it did for me, and I didn't have a special needs child, but I did not do the planning for my child like you think I would. And she got in a motorcycle accident her first year of college. And here I am not being able to talk to a doctor because I had no authorization because she's an adult. And so, it was a really horrible experience. And of course, we changed all that really quick. But, you just think as a parent, you're just taking care of your child and you just want, that you're just don't even think about that things have changed legally for you until you encounter that kind of situation or someone reminds you you no longer have that authority. So with special needs children, how much more important is it than that? So we can start to go into for a guardianship 6 months before they turn 18. And so that's really helpful. And I like to get that going because we need a doctor's report. We need to, get, any kind of witnesses in line. We need to have a court investigator. If it's in Harris County, go out. In other counties, it's just the attorney ad litem, but everywhere it's an attorney ad litem also representing the child. So there's so many people involved that it takes time and to look over the medical.
Yes. It does. That's why you need to plan now because, gosh, the paperwork that's involved.
Yes.
Whoa.
It's crazy. And depending on the kind of guardianship we're doing, if we're doing a guardianship of the estate, even after that's in place, and that's for the finances. So if your child is special needs but has money in their own name, that needs to be either we do some pre-planning, which is great. We can do some third-party special needs trust and avoid the guardianship of the estate, because the guardianship of the estate for the finances is very, very costly, because not only does it take to get a lot to get in place, but everything has to be approved by the court after that. A budget for your child, anything you buy or sell or whatever, it has to be approved by the court. And there's a yearly accounting to the court, to the penny.
Yes.
And so because of that, it's very onerous on the parent or guardian. And so the other is a guardianship of the person, which determines their medical and their living situation. And so that sometimes, we usually try to do a third-party special needs trust and just a guardianship of the person, because that's only an annual kind of report of how's your child doing. It's called a report of the well-being of the child. And they just want to know that you're taking care of them. They're going to the doctor, if they're in school, how they're doing, what, they're being taken care of. And so that's a much easier kind of guardianship to have. So if we can combine that with a third-party special needs trust or a first-party special needs trust, then that will first party for the child's own money, third party for everybody else's money. Then we can still keep them qualified for their needs-based government assistance, usually Medicaid and SSI benefits. So that's just really
demoralizing. Is how do you know as a parent? I mean, there's not a school that teaches you this.
There is not.
And like Julia mentioned, you Google, because as we all do, and a lot of the information is either incorrect or outdated, or you're getting something for New Jersey when you live in Texas, and it's just not the same rules all the time. So there's a lot of moving parts to those special needs trusts, definitely.
And you know what? I got to tell you something. A parent should not try to do this themselves. They need to hire a Dean law firm, because there is so much involved. And you know what? It might cost you a little money, but I got to tell you, it was well worth it for us.
You do have to just see that as investment in your child and yourself, that you have the rights to manage, what your child needs, and to continue that great care that you've been giving them, and not have to rely on the state or whoever they appoint to watch over your child.
Well, as always, your show goes by so fast. Tell people how they can reach you.
So you can reach us at our phone number, which is 281-277-3326. And we endeavor to answer the phone between 8 and 5. And if you don't get us, we'll call you back as soon as possible. It just means we're all taking care of clients at that point. But we have a staff and 2 people backing up on the phone. So just know that almost all the time we can answer your calls personally. And that's really important to us, that you get a personal connection. And if you can't get it immediately, you'll get it soon. And then you can also go to our website, which is juliadeanlaw.com. So JuliaDeanLaw.com. And if you go there, you can learn about what we do too and some areas of the law. But there's a place that says contact us. And so if you send that to us, we will reach out to you. So
yes, we're going to be replaying this show 2 weeks from today. Someone asked me the other day about your show. You can also go to iHeart and go in their library. Just put in Ask the Experts, estate planning, and actually all of Julia's shows will show up. Julia, thank you so much. Kayla, thank you. You both did such a great job. And we'll see you again next month.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
God bless. And that's attorney Julia Dean. She is a fabulous estate planning attorney out of Houston, Texas. And listen, folks, don't wait. Get this done now. We're going to go to a short break. When we come back, we got more with Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.